on that. My feeling is that, and I think I have a good sense of this, is that departments are pretty tapped out on their federal fund and other funding sources, and that if I were to allocate this out, a majority of it would default to general fund. I just got that strong sense that's what would occur, so I might as well just bypass that process and advocate for the general fund being put right into the program.
Mm-hmm. So can I ask you one other question? So this is what it costs us for the first year of the retirement incentive.
It's gonna cost more because this is staggered in, and Beth will have the sheet on how they originally calculated.
So are we gonna have to pay it again next year?
Oh,
as
absolutely.
opposed to it coming out?
Oh, no, we factored it in, I'm sorry, in the out year, 2011, we factored it into the contribution
okay.
rate.
Thank you.
But yeah, we are gonna have to pay it, it's just through the contribution
through the rate.
And that's gonna be a pretty significant cost increase in terms of the rate going up, if we
We've
don't.
seen that.
Yeah.
We've seen those ones.
I went to those retirement commission hearings, and they were talking about a federal accounting rule or allocation rule for healthcare benefits, and we're reaching a cap on that.
Yeah, that's a problem. It's not a problem on the Vermont State Employees Retirement because that is separately funded and baked into the retirement rate. Where the problem is, and Beth Pearson Jeff can speak much more articulate, much more clearly about this, is my understanding is there's a provision that says in your retirement program, if a certain amount or percentage of the overall payments goes to health care, then you run into an IRS tax problem. And I think that cap is like 25%, and we're getting close to the cap on the amount that of our payouts out of the retirement, the teachers' retirement program that are dedicated to health care.
So you're talking about the fact that we pay for healthcare on the teacher side out of the corpus of the fund,
Exactly, without it being separately funded, exactly.
On his state employees side, we don't do that.
That's correct, and that's really where the issue, is. And Steve actually did a nice one or two sheeter last year that I know was shared with Senate Appropriations Committee that showed that one of the fastest components, I think, of the teacher's retirement in terms of growth, absent what we've experienced for investment losses, which no one could have thought that would be that dismal, showed that the teacher's retirement health insurance was slated to go up significantly. So we're bumping up against that cap. That is an issue, and will need to be addressed in the future. And thank you for pointing that out. I'm glad you did, because that's good information for the community to have. The next item is we have more of our fellow Vermonters going overseas on behalf of our country, and we thought that we probably ought to put some additional funding into the Supplemental Assistance to Survivors Fund, which I don't think has much money left in it. And that's just an estimate. Unfortunately, I hope we don't need more money. The debt service, we got a little wind at our backs. For the debt service, we anticipated short-term borrowing that I think was going to be cost us in the vicinity of about $1.1 million, and the legislature accounted for that debt service in the budget. We assumed back early in the fiscal year that we would have to borrow by as early as December. Our cash flow actually is okay. We still think we're going to have to borrow this year, but not as soon as was originally anticipated, and that generates about $476,000 of savings. The remaining $54,000 of savings is really adjusting our appropriation to the actual debt schedule, because we make an estimate, which we're usually pretty good with. That also takes into consideration, I think you need to have the treasurer's office in here to speak to this issue. There's about $350,000 of savings related to the there would be more savings here, about another 300 to 350,000, but we have kept an appropriation for a possible arbitrage payment we may need to make.
What's an arbitrage?
It's when you,
Doesn't sound good.
No, and it goes back a few years, we're not sure if we made the payment. And that's being researched, but we've provided a provision for it. What arbitrage is, in simple terms, because I have to keep it simple for myself, is the fact of the matter is when you borrow money, if you're generating investment income, and you're not spending it down, and you're actually making money off of it, then we're a nonprofit, it becomes taxable to the IRS.
They don't like you to borrow money and invest it at a higher rate than your rate of interest and.
Yeah,
So.
they've thrown upon that.
School
Unless you're
systems.
Might be worth it.
School systems can't do it if you're a nonprofit.
And you should know that, one of the things that I'm finding that's making it difficult to deduct the arbitrage is the fact, and Jerry Meyer's been talking more about this, the Commissioner of Buildings and General Services, as well as maybe Jeff Spalding, the Treasurer of the state of Vermont, is that we sometimes, like for, I think it's maybe I'll use the Bennington office building as an example, or building 617 in Essex, where we, I think, got appropriated through the capital bill about $6 million for renovations to that facility in Essex. And then we got some money the following year, and it wasn't sufficient to actually do the renovations, so you're building up.
So
you're sitting on the money, and if you're borrowing the money and you're not spending it, that's when you potentially get into that arbitrage issue. So there's that dynamic with the capital bill of not being able to get all the money the first year that has some effect on the arbitrage calculation. I don't know how you get around it. What we have done is we've switched it out for projects that have been accelerated, so that we've reallocated the funds to make sure that we didn't get in an arbitrage issue. That's becoming increasingly more difficult. And now what we're doing is, I think this year, is we're actually gonna borrow about, I think it's about 17 million less than authorized, because we can't spend it right now. But you'd have to talk to Jerry Myers about the details, so that's just a quick overview of some of the issues there.
If we borrow less this year, does that mean we
Carries
can
forward,
borrow?
we can borrow it later when we need it.
Oh, it carries forward. That's
Yeah.
what I was thinking, like when you borrow or use.
So you're talking about capital bill borrowing?
Capital bill
Yeah.
borrowing.
Wow. Okay, because why didn't we just use it to pay off school construction?
Well, because you got other projects, and those other projects are definitely in the pipeline, it's just that they're not.
Oh, so it's
You don't wanna
money,
spend it
so
somewhere
it's
else.
money for things like the crime lab that you just aren't able to spend this year.
Exactly, you're gonna have to spend later.
So it's
I
allocated.
thought the same thing as you, and
You need the money later.
So, can I ask you one more question about that item? Do you have an idea of the time frame for when he might know whether you're going to have to make the arbitrage?
I hope sooner than later. As soon as we do, be happy to inform you folks, and, there might be a possibility to have some